Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aslihan Bulut, and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the Law Librarian of Congress. Thank you for joining us today. You may have visited the Library of Congress before, but have you been to the Law Library? The Law Library of Congress serves as the nation's custodian to the world's largest collection of legal materials, a legal and legislative collection of nearly 3 million items from all countries around the world, and legal systems as well. While the Law Library's first obligation is to serve the United States Congress and the U.S. Supreme Court, we also serve other federal and state courts and agencies, as well as researchers and patrons around the United States and across the world. Our skilled staff, both American-trained attorneys and law librarians, provide research assistance and reference services on United States, federal, and state legal issues. And our foreign law specialists, which is a diverse group of foreign-trained attorneys, provide foreign law research and analysis on over 300 legal systems and foreign and international jurisdictions. Some of you are from DC area, and some are probably visiting from out of town, not within driving distance of the library, or perhaps you live an ocean away. Well, I can tell you that the Law Library is here for you despite the physical distances. We've made it very simple to find us on the web. Our easy-to-remember web address is law.gov. There, you can begin your search into the Law Library's digital collections on government and law by region, country, U.S. state, or rest of the world. When the COVID-19 pandemic began to close down public institutions across the country, it quickly became apparent that the educational and outreach programs would have to move online. This provided the Law Library of Congress with the opportunity to capitalize on our efforts to shift its existing educational programs online and to enrich our offerings. And the silver lining here was that we had an endless opportunity to raise awareness of our collections, services, and engage new user communities and partners. One of our main virtual platforms launched in 2020 to create, consolidate, and promote the Law Library's in-person and webinar-based courses, presentations, classes, trainings, and events is the Legal Research Institute. On the Legal Research Institute page, you will be able to find a schedule of our offerings, class descriptions, registration information, links to related online resources, and recordings of all of our past presentations. It is our one-stop location for Law Library educational offerings, which include the Orientation to Legal Research webinar series, which provides classes on the laws and legal resources produced by the 3 branches of government, the Congress.gov webinar series, which gives a basic overview of Congress's official legislative system, Congress.gov, the Foreign and Comparative Law webinar series, which is designed to shed light on some of the foreign, comparative, and international law issues researched by our foreign law experts at the Law Library, and the Orientation to Law Library Collections webinar series, which offers an introduction to the Law Library's collections and services. And starting in November, it will also start highlighting collections of state law libraries nationwide. The collaboration with the U.S. state law libraries is part of our newest initiative, the 50 State Law Libraries Outreach, with a goal to strengthen our mutual ties by sharing information about our collections, products, and services with one another and with the public. Having built this strong foundation in the area of online instruction, the Law Library plans to continue to enhance its offerings, meeting users where they are, and expanding the idea of what they can do with the Library of Congress resources from anywhere. So once again, to sign up for any of these classes, please visit our Legal Research Institute page on our website, law.gov. And now it's my very pleasure to introduce our presenter, Barbara Bavis, who's the Bibliographic and Instruction Research instruction librarian at the Law Library of Congress. She has been with the Law Library of Congress since 2012. She holds a BA in History from Duke University, a JD from University of North Carolina School of Law, and a Master of Science in Library and Information Science with a specialization in law librarianship from Catholic University. And today, Barbara will be speaking on a featured resource found on the congress.gov website, the Constitution Annotated Online. This is an invaluable resource researching United States constitutional law. It provides a summary of constitutional provisions and the leading U.S. Supreme Court decisions that interpret them. For more information about this initiative, I'm going to turn it over to Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you, Aslihan. So again, today I'm going to be talking about the Constitution Annotated of the United States of America Analysis and Interpretation, which, as you can imagine, we need a short version for that, so we call it the Constitution Annotated. And sometimes, if you're actually at the Library of Congress, you'll hear some people refer to it as Conan. So I want to give you a little bit of background about the Constitution Annotated itself. You might not know the Constitution Annotated actually exists also as a print resource. So as Aslihan mentioned, Congress has had a long-standing need to understand the Constitution in its current legal, social, political, legislative context. So about 120 years ago, we started producing Senate documents that talked about lists of Supreme Court cases interpreting the Constitution and giving members of Congress an idea of how courts have interpreted the Constitution and how founding American legal documents have discussed the Constitution. So the Constitution Annotated is the only comprehensive government-sanctioned record of interpretations of the Constitution. And it's published about every 10 years, and that's the latest version that you see there on your screen. And as you can imagine, it's gotten pretty big. So we're up to over 3,000 pages. So it used to be available online as a PDF, but as you can imagine, that was a little hard to navigate. So we have worked together with the Congressional Research Service, or CRS. CRS is the group that puts together the Constitution Annotated and drafts it, and work together to create the Constitution Annotated Online, which you can see on your screen there. Two of the main things that are very important about the Constitution Annotated Online are that, one, it is searchable, and two, that it is browsable. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to interact with it. We have also added some additional resources that you might not find in the print version, and we update it pretty frequently, very frequently, I should say, and I'm going to show you how to see how quickly it's updated in just a second. So you'll see at the top, those are our browsable options, which I'm going to go in detail in just a second. Next, you're going to see the keyword search. So it's a Google-like keyword search that searches the entire Constitution Annotated. And then underneath that, you're going to see some information, and it's just a carousel of kind of the most recent updates and information about the Constitution Annotated. For those of you who might not have seen the print version and not this online version, it launched on Constitution Day in 2019. So we've been updating it ever since then, and it's been updated, well, we'll see in just a second. I have a screenshot of it, but about weekly to monthly since then. If you scroll down a little bit on the home page, you'll see three different kind of modules on the home page. The first one there is featured issues. Featured issues is going to give you information created by the Congressional Research Service, CRS, regarding recent Supreme Court topics, related topics. So things, topics that are being considered, topics that are in cases on the Supreme Court's docket. Next, you're going to see the U.S. Constitution at the Library of Congress. This highlights the library's constitutional resources and law.gov resources. Next, you're going to see the Constitution annotated resources. And these are ones that we have added particularly to help you kind of navigate through what you're looking at in the Constitution annotated, how we put it together, and find information about the cases that are cited in the Constitution annotated. One thing I want to focus on is the browse feature, and I've put a little box around it here. You can actually browse the Constitution annotated based on its kind of hierarchical structure, so as if you were turning pages in a book. And it's broken down by articles of the Constitution, sections within those articles, and also the amendments. We're going to look at that in just a moment. But I want to turn first to keyword searching, because if you're like me, sometimes you just have a topic you want to find more information on, and you just want to do a keyword search. So I've put a sample in here, just assuming I was doing a project on freedom of the press, and I've typed in freedom and press into our search bar. And before I hit enter, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about that search help box that you see to the right of your screen there. The search help box is going to give you information about what Boolean connectors you can use, any kind of wildcards, so if you want to add something to the end to make sure you're catching all the versions of a word. If you have any questions about that, search help is going to be great for you. And, but if I did a search, so this is my freedom and press search, you're going to notice a few things here. First of all, we get 111 results, and it gives you the number of results at the top of your page. If that's too many search results, we're going to show in just a second how you can use the filters on the left-hand side to kind of narrow down your results. As you see your options, your results, you're going to note that there is a title for the different essays in the Constitution annotated. If you want to see that essay, all you have to do is click on the title. Next to it is a serial number that's unique to every single annotation in the Constitution annotated, or essay in the Constitution annotated. And it gives you an idea of where that essay is in the document itself and where it is kind of situated in the Constitution. And we'll break that down in just a moment. Next, you're also going to see a little bit of a breadcrumb letting you know this essay is about this certain article, or in this case, amendment of the Constitution. So this particular essay is about the First Amendment. And then finally, your keywords are going to show up in a little preview underneath each essay title. So you can kind of tell at a glance, this is or isn't dealing with my issue. You can also see a hit count underneath of where, how many times your words show up in your essay. All right, but let's see, before we turn to the essay itself, I did promise we would look at the filters. You can see here I've narrowed down my search results just to the First Amendment and to the topic of the Supreme Court, and that's taken me from over 111 results to 11. So even if you do a search and it's thousands of results, you have not done a bad search. Just use the filters on the left-hand side to narrow you down. So I'm talking about freedom of the press. I'm probably dealing with the First Amendment, so I've narrowed it down to the First Amendment. All right. And then one thing I want to note is if you want to get rid of any of your filters, at the top of your page, there's going to be your filter with a little X next to it. Just click the X to get rid of it and return to your search before. And then finally, if you're happy with your search and you want to save it for a later date, all you have to do is click Copy Search at the top of your search page, and it'll download a file that you can save on your computer. Oh, I'm sorry, it'll download a URL that will take you to this page on your computer. All right, so I'm going to do another kind of sample search. In this case, I've been asked to do research regarding the Commerce Clause. So what I did was I searched for the words Commerce Clause in quotation marks, which is a phrase search, meaning those two words have to appear in that order in any of my search results. And you'll note that I do get 34 results. I don't need to probably narrow this down any further. This is probably what I want. And I'm perhaps interested in Article 1. Further, if I look down at my search results, I see that the first one is from Article 1, the Dormant Commerce Clause Overview. And if I click that, I am taken to the essay itself. There's a couple different structural things I want to point out here. First are breadcrumbs at the top of your page. So let's say, okay, I liked this article, but maybe I kind of wanted to step back and see more stuff about Section 8, Clause 3 of Article 1. I could do that by just clicking the links at the top. I could also click the link for just Section 8 of Article 1, or I could go all the way back just to Article 1 generally. So you can take those kind of mini steps back. You don't have to create a whole new search result page to get there. Next, you'll note that there are going to be arrows on the sides of the pages. That's so you can navigate it just like you would a book. So if you had that 3,000-page book in front of you, you would be turning those pages to get to the next essay. You can do that just here by clicking those arrows. Then you're going to see the serial number of your essay, the essay title, and then the actual text from the Constitution that they're discussing in this essay. So they're specifically discussing, as I mentioned before, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, and then it's printed there for you. And then underneath is the, and topics are on the left-hand side. Topics are assigned by the Congressional Research Service, and it's just giving you an idea of what this article is talking about, other than just Article 1, but topics like commerce, discrimination, Supreme Court, etc. And then finally, the essay is below. But what if I were interested in one of those topics, right? So I've clicked the topic of commerce, and it takes me to a search results page where the entire Constitution annotated is limited down to just the topic of commerce. So if you wanted to if you were interested in that essay, but you wanted to see other essays on that same topic, that's a quick and easy way to do it. You don't have to go out and create a new search. And you'll see there, I've highlighted where you can see the topic search. But let's talk about the essay itself. So here is an example of the essay, and you'll note that there are endnotes throughout this essay, all right? And if you want to click on any of those, you can be taken down to the end of the page where you can see citation information. So the primary sources or the secondary sources they use to create that essay, and particularly that line of the essay. And this is what it looks like, or footnotes, I should say, not endnotes. If you go down to the footnotes at the bottom of the page, and you read the footnote, think that's great, but I want to go back to the essay, all you have to do is click the little caret symbol, and it'll take you back up to your footnote. And another thing I want to point out is that about 90% of the case citations that you're going to see here cite you, or actually take you to the Law Library's U.S. Reports collection. The U.S. Reports are the official case case reporter for the Supreme Court. So if you were to click one of these links, you would actually be taken to a PDF digitized page where you can actually see the opinion that they're talking about. If you want to know more information about our citation links, all you have to do is go to our About page, scroll down, and then it'll give you information about where we're pulling that information from, how we set up those hyperlinks, etc. Okay, now let's go to the Browse page. So if we went up to the top of our Constitution Annotated page, we hit Browse. Here is our Browse Explanations page, set up like it is in the print version. And of course, also set up by articles and then amendments. If you were to kind of drill down to one of the amendments, I'm just picking on the 14th Amendment here, you'll see it's broken down by section. And then within that section, you're going to see kind of like a hierarchical structure. where it breaks it down into parts of that section. All right. And if you're interested in any one of those, all you have to do is click on the link, and it will take you to the essay of interest. All right, I know I'm low on time, so I want to be sure to talk about resources. So this is really key for the Constitution Annotated Online because a lot of this is frequently updated and is kind of in addition to what you've seen in the essays. So at the top, I've clicked Resources, and then it defaults to Table of Cases. So these are the cases that are cited in the Constitution Annotated. It also gives you a link to the essays that they're cited in. And you can search that table as well, and you can see that at the top of the table. Next, I want to take us to, this is one we get asked about at the reference desk, Table of Supreme Court Decisions Overruled by Subsequent Decisions. So if you've seen something in the news where a case has been overruled by a subsequent case, this is where you can find that information. We also link you to the decisions that are involved, and we give you information about the years in which those cases were decided. And you can search them as well. So what I've done here is searched for Florida, and I've just said I want everything. So I've put the first years that I could search for, 1796 to 2022. And you'll see here it's sorted my table and given me the cases that actually deal with Florida in some way, shape, or form. One of those cases, let me go back. One of those cases deals with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. So what I've done is just to show you, I can search for that particular party, so the Seminole Tribe, and if I do that in my global search box, I can narrow down to the tables. So I don't necessarily, if I do a search, I don't necessarily have to go to an essay. I can also search the tables via the global search box. Next, I just wanted to talk about the tables themselves. You can sort them at the top using the arrows. So I've sorted this one by year of decision, and then I could sort the other options by that as well. All right. You can also reset the table. So if you've done a bunch of searching in that table and you just want it to see it clean again, just hit reset table to do that, and you can download the table in a CSV format. All right. And for those of you, I do this all the time, so that's, I know, but Excel or Google Sheets. Tables of laws held unconstitutional in whole or in part deals with not just federal laws, but also state laws that have been found to be unconstitutional. And it breaks it down by the case, and then also who wrote the decision, and then also what state or federal law was found to be unconstitutional, and why. So it actually gives you the constitutional provision that was used. Next is Table of Supreme Court Justices. You'll see we've added Justice Brown Jackson on there, and it just goes by date of start. All right, and you can change that sort field if you want as well. And then beyond the Constitution Annotated, we've given you a table of additional resources, both the title, and that links you to CRS reports that they've done on these different issues. CRS reports can also be found on congress.gov, and these links will take you to those reports. Also, it'll give you information about the amendments or articles that are involved in that report. I'm almost there. I also wanted to talk about, we get some questions about how did you put this together? Why is it set up this way? What sources are you using, et cetera? Methodologies for the tables is that final option in your resources page, and it goes through that information for you. So please feel free to look at that if you have any questions about how things are put together. And then finally, I want to talk quickly about the Constitution of the United States link at the top of each page. This will actually just have the text of the Constitution, so without the essay information involved. But if you do want the essays, you can click on the little buttons next to the text, And it will take you to the browse page where you can see those different essays if you'd like to. You can navigate it easily on the right-hand side by article and amendment. And if you want to see updates to the Constitution Annotated, all you have to do is click the Updates link at the top, and it will actually walk you through from newest to oldest the updates that have been made to the page. So you can know if this, what you're looking at is really up to date. All right. And it'll take you to what has been updated. And then the About page gives you more information about what the serial numbers mean, how you can cite to the Constitution Annotated, and more information about the Law Library of Congress, the Congressional Research Service, and the Library of Congress generally, and how we interact with constitutional resources. So I know that was a lot. If you have any questions, and I'm happy to answer questions, there's microphones on either side here. But if you have any questions after this, because I know I'm kind of running up against the end, please feel free to go to law.gov and click Ask a Librarian, and we're more than happy to help you from there as well. All right, I see a question.
Thank you. Question is about date filters. Is there a type of filter where I can find out where, as an example, amendments came into effect or when amendments changed, or there were significant alterations on opinion on their meanings?
I don't know of one off the top of my head, but as you'll see when you navigate to the, sorry, I should get next to the microphone. As you navigate through the amendment pages on that browse page, there's usually a history section, and it goes through the history of that amendment and how it was written and ratified from there. As a sort feature, I'm not aware of it. I'll check, but I'm not aware that we have a table like that.
This may be down the road, but I just thought I'd pop the question. Might there be any plans to include, say, large human events that you could search on laws that are extremely relevant to those events? You know, say like COVID, as a for instance, and somebody wanted to see, well, what amendments, what laws, what opinions really are relevant to that great human condition or event?
Yeah, so that is a great question, thank you. I think probably the best resource for that is the resources page, where you can find more information about CRS reports. So the Congressional Research Service puts together highly detailed reports on different topics that might be facing members of Congress. And so they would do reports on things like, and they have done, I know because I've searched them, on COVID, and different aspects of laws that are going to be, or bills that are going to be considered on that issue. And it also talks about kind of the histories of those issues as well. And they're highly cited like you saw on the Constitution Annotated. We link to those on that first page of the Constitution Annotated, but we also have a separate page for CRS reports, and that's crsreports.congress.gov. So it's also on the congress.gov page. It's just in a different section of it. So crsreports.congress.gov. And I'm glad you asked. If you do want to suggest future updates, you'll note that at the top of the pages, there's usually a link to, not this one, of course, a link to a survey. And that survey actually does go to our developers. And so we do read the responses to that survey. And there's a free text box where you can type in options that you think should be added. Thanks. Next.
My question is regarding, because all of these resources are online, are there other options for people who are like incarcerated or like being held in ICE detention to get access to these things? Because those are the people who would like very much need access to these kind of resources regarding their rights.
Right. So the print version is going to be an option, and the print version comes out I know it comes out every 10 years, so there's a little bit of a lag there. But the print resource also has some of these like methodologies and information about the cases cited and things like that. So probably that's the best option for no internet access at all. In addition, we do have our Ask a Librarian service. So if there's some way we can work together with like the prison librarian or, the librarian for the public library in that area, we definitely do that as well. That's something we actually pretty frequently do. So we're happy to do that too. Yeah.
Hi, I am a history teacher interested in using this resource in the classroom. Are there like resources or tips or tricks anywhere that I can find for using it for lesson planning?
That's a good question. We are working, the law library is working on actually a resource guide just for that purpose. We haven't put it out yet though, so I wanted to get it out before the school year started. But we do have a handout where we walk through not just the Constitution annotated, but also some of just our legal resources that might be helpful, because a lot of people don't think of the law library as being something that can be used in primary education, but we do have some resources that I think are really fun in that way. So what I would do is send us an email to that Ask a Librarian, and we can send you, we have the teacher handout that we're using, and that's what we're basing our research guide on. So, and look out for that probably in the next month or two.
Great, thank you. That won't be bad timing. So.
I know. Thanks.
If I may add, can you hear me here? No. I just wanted to add there's a great initiative at the Library of Congress on teaching with primary sources that is really dedicated to working with educators like yourself to use primary sources that are digitized to enhance your instruction. So that is a whole other division that runs this initiative. But if you email us, we'll be able to put you in touch with them as well.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. We really appreciate your interest. And let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.